everybody. Welcome to the media show on the Pod TV network. I'm Nick Palavita. I'm your moderator for today's show. And after the Honorable David M. Walker had the Hollywood Squares filled up, it looks like everybody ran out of gas for this particular meeting, except one individual who's here today, Jatovy McDuffie. Jatovy, you're the only one who transferred over.
Really? I thought everybody was going to come this way.
You know what I think what happened after the economic show? I think they just ran out of steam and they just went flat, boom. So now the thing is, there's only you and I on the media show today. And you know what? Even better, I didn't even have a topic prepared.
Really?
Yeah, I was going like
interesting.
Well, I was going, well, what topic? See, with the other show, it wasn't immigration that we were discussing. It was the supplemental spending of $40 billion more by the Biden administration. Now, with that, he was actually going to use $26 billion on Ukraine and another $20 billion on the border, believe it or not. And the other part was for disaster relief. So immigration did actually come up, but you can throw all the money you want to it. The problem is you're not solving the problem. You know,
Yeah.
And the thing is, what you need to do is have more relaxed immigration laws. First of all, you do have to have programs that attract the best and the brightest. If I was the best and the brightest years ago, everybody wanted to come to America. Now, I'm not sure if you want to come to America. There's a lot of great countries. Hey, Jatovy, there are a lot of great countries you can live on. You don't have to live here, you know, assuming you can get in some of these other great countries. So it's lost its, I think it's lost its international appeal. But without getting back the mojo and changing the immigration laws to attract the best and the brightest, we're going to lose them. And then you have the hard workers. I don't get why we're against the hardworking people from the Central America and Latin America coming up here and going to work. These people work their butts off. Okay. You know, I'm serious. And they'll come up. And what they want to do is they want to work, provide services, you know, and this is a vast majority of them. And I'm going like, why don't we have it easier to let them in? They don't want to go in for asylum. They want for economic opportunity. What's wrong with that? You know, I don't get why we just don't say, okay, what are you here to do? Well, I want to work. What sort of work you do? Well, I clean toilets. They do everything. I'll clean your house. I'll go pick things off the clean up I'll do anything as long as I get a job. And I don't see any problems with bringing those people on. They're hard workers. This way, guys like Jimmy, who's just joined us.
See, everybody came.
You were talking about me.
Of course.
If you bring the hard workers in from Latin America, then guys like Jim Meade can sit on his butt and write books about chess for dummies, and Rick Rosner can do his evening show because all these other people be out working their butts off. So it makes sense to open our borders up and allow these people in. That's my opinion. So I don't have to work as hard because they want to work. I don't. Okay? Real simple. Bring them in, let them work so I don't have to.
I think you chip somebody comes to the border, you inject a chip into them so you can keep track. And for the people who say that that's like 1984, anybody with an iPhone is already chipped.
That's true. Well, why don't you just give them a cell phone? I mean, the thing is, this is really great. This is the ultimate scam. Okay? What you do is say, hey, you want to come to the United States? Here's your cell phone. What would I do? Well, you know how to use those. Of course.
They'll teach you English.
They'll teach you English. But none of that, we can keep track of you everywhere
you go.
The scary thing is, Rick, when you started talking about chipping people, I'm thinking Logan's Run. What are we doing?
Well, I mean, like Republicans want voter ID. If everybody's chipped, you just, there's your ID.
But rather than chip, give them a bloody cell phone.
Sure.
Okay? Give them a cell phone. They're going to turn it on. You'll be able to track them. You'll know everything about them. Say, this is your government-issued cell phone. And
they're calling their drug cartel
English.
now.
Hey, dude, it'll teach you English. You can translate instantaneously. Okay, all you have to do is turn it on. We will know where you are at any point in time. We'll know what you applied for. We know if you have a job, don't have a job. We'll know everything about you. Here it is. And then let them come in the United States with their government.
So Are we now back to the Obama phone, which was the big cry? The Obama phone. Remember when President Obama was in office, and then during that election, people started saying that he's getting people to vote for him by giving them a free phone and giving them the Obama phone.
Well, I mean, it's a solution.
Chicken in every pot.
You don't have to hire all these stupid attorneys to sit in the border and cuddle through 2,000 pages of laws that don't make sense to see whether or not they are admitted, and have to go through trials and waste more legal time and more time. Instead, okay, what are you here for? Well, I want to go to work. Great. Do you have any work papers? No, you don't have any papers at all. All right, here you go. Here's your government issued cell phone. And then we know everything about you, and let them go to work and find, and then you can keep track of them. You'll know everything about them. So I think there's some high tech solutions to Toby. I think that's a great idea, and that's what I would do. And then try to rebring the United States to attract the best and the brightest. As Jim know, we did that with chess, right? We took in Wesley So from the Philippines, Leonard Dominguez from Cuba. Of course, we already had Hiraku. We talked Fabio Carona to come in from Italy. So you have this monster chess team all over the world. We did that with the math team. All these people from China, from all over the world. We can do that in the United States, but you have to attract and set up systems that bring the best and the brightest in, but also you need the hard workers, because we know the best and the brightest don't want to work that hard.
Well, what do we do? What do we make?
Rick, you work that hard.
I'm fantastically lazy.
Oh, very good.
It's my best strength.
Yeah, that's Jim's number one trait. So, he writes a book, Chess for Dummies, and then he retires.
And just eat bonbons by my pool.
Yeah, or he writes Dummies by my book.
I've been working on a book for 8 years. My wife sat down and cranked out a book in a month.
Oh, ChatGPT did it for. You don't need to do a month. You just have ChatGPT, and they'll write the whole book for you.
I tried it. Chat. I mean, it's not good yet. It's still dumb.
Yeah,
it's going to be smart.
It's overrated right now. They do the same thing. Well, listen.
Let's have fun and see what it says about that.
I think ChatGPT would own up to not being smart yet.
Yeah, no, it isn't. I mean, the thing is, see, they do well at chess, but it's contained to 64 squares. As you go outside and you have to start making judgment decisions and stuff, then computers, not so good.
Yeah, that's why self-driving cars keep killing people, because you need a whole server farm to contain all the information that a driver should have.
But they're testing it out right now in San Francisco, where Jim lives. And because you have limited roads and limited knowledge drivers, it probably will work, So, because, in San Francisco is a very small contained area, and they don't drive that fast, really, because you can't, because you got those stupid trolleys going back and forth.
You're actually right. One of the things, like my chess playing friends who came over from Russia, they could get jobs as taxi drivers because they could learn the city and so they could speak enough English to understand the street addresses and it was an easy town to understand, and it's so there is something to that. But and like what you're saying is basically, if there's rules based, then computers on AI is very helpful.
Hey, Nick, I got a question to ask you based on our last show, but it is somewhat media related and all along those lines. But you had mentioned earlier about the need for folks to be responsible when they're coming over from these other countries and all along those lines. And I definitely agree with you, but I sometimes think that the corporations also need some responsibility as well, because they're the ones that are actually hiring some of these folks. And the other thing that you said on the economic show that I was going to give you a little bit of pushback on and everything is that you had mentioned that they all need to learn English. I think Kim had said something similar and all along those lines and everything. And I'm going like, isn't this population about to be overwhelmingly Spanish? So couldn't they argue technically that we all need to learn Spanish and everything? Because definitely, if you're going to go into some of these places, you might need to learn some Spanish. I know that when I was in school, French and Spanish were my Achilles heel. I was not that great at foreign languages, and I know what some of my Achilles heels were and all in that space. But I'm going like, hey, if there's going to be a sizable portion of the population that we might need to learn not just Spanish, but Mandarin as well. And I don't know how to speak either of those very fluently, and the Mandarin not at all. I do know a couple of words.
But
in
but
Spanish.
our cell phones know them, so we don't have to learn. They can.
Yeah. They have translator programs you can get basically for free on your cell phone, Mark. You don't need to learn English. You just need to learn how to operate this and run your translator programs, and then you're good to go. So I agree with Jatovi's solution. They come in the border, you give them the government issued cell phone with an app on it that they turn on so you can find out where they go, what they do. You know everything about them. You know what jobs they applied for, which ones they got rejected. You know everything about them. It has instant translator programs, their own government issued cell phone, and then send them into the United States to do whatever they plan on doing.
That was your solution. Don't take pride in your solution.
Take pride in your solution and all those lines. It was Nick's solution. He tried to pass it on to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask somebody about a media question as well.
Next show it'll be my idea.
Yeah,
There is a crazy candidate out here in North Carolina that apparently is worried that a certain singer, a well-known singer, is living and being influencing people and all in that space. So while he might be a leading governor candidate, apparently Mark Robinson is worried that Beyonce is satanic and all in that space. So, and he's apparently put it out on notice and put it out in a couple of places that he feels that this is the case. So are we having candidates that are worrying about things that they, one, don't have any knowledge of, and two, have no control of, even if she was practicing that, which I don't think she is, but I guess he was going to the concert, and I heard it was an amazing concert in Charlotte, and felt that she was, being influenced by the evil powers.
I mean, I'll put it out there. If Beyonce is the devil, I love the devil. Just saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
Give me my horns. Come on, Beyonce.
Yeah.
You and me.
Mark Robinson, who is a bit touched, may end up being the next governor of North Carolina.
Yes, and that's who made the comments.
Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think he's leading in the polls.
I think that they are in a dead heat. The last time I checked, it was like a dead heat.
The thing is, today, to qualify to be a candidate, you have to pass a crazy test. If you're crazy enough to run for office, then you have a chance to be elected. Okay. If you're normal, forget it. You have no chance. We don't elect normal people. We don't want normal people. We want crazy people to run for office.
Well,
And we want to vote for crazy people.
That was my take on the Republican debates. It seemed like there weren't too many normal people on there. Although I thought Nikki Haley came out pretty normal, like a regular Republican used to be.
Oh, Nikki Haley. I actually ran a poll on LinkedIn to see how well they did because, believe it or not, Vivek did really well in the first poll. Now I'm going into the final poll.
He's crazy.
He's nuts. Sorry.
Well, plus he doesn't know anything. He's another businessman candidate. And if you look at how there have been 7 businessman presidents, including both Bush's, Carter was a peanut farmer. Truman was a haberdasher.
See, that's what you say. That's what Jatovi says. That's what James says. But here's the poll.
Yeah, you know the poll, Nick. Who's answering that poll?
1,393 people. 1,393 people. Who won the debate? 38% give it to Vivek Ramaswamy, the crazy guy.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley, 32%. Ron DeSantis, 24%. Tim Scott, 6%.
Yeah.
So here's the reality.
That's not reality, Nick. That's the result of your poll. Don't confuse the two. That's not reality. Come on. We know what
the Trumpiest of the
polls
debate.
are not reality.
They want Vivek, baby.
That means 32% of it. Yeah,
There
but that's I could do another poll and get you a different number,
No,
Nick.
you're not. I
It's
did
silly.
test
But
retest.
Nikki Haley did come
I
out
did
as a normal
chi-square
Republican.
analysis on this.
And there's the 1/3 of the
Chi-square,
country that's
along
crazy.
with test retest, And the
And
thing
1/3
is,
of the country is more likely to respond to that poll. The crazies are more likely to respond to you than
Vivek
normal
wins.
people are.
okay, so you're gonna have to get used to, if you don't want crazy Trump, you're gonna get crazy Vivek.
No,
If
you're
you-
not.
You can't. The deal
I
is
don't say
that
that. I don't see that.
polls are no good anymore because
It's a ridiculous
nobody
argument to make.
nobody
Nick.
who's not crazy says yes to taking a poll. They have to call 500 people before they find somebody to say yes on average, and which means that one person in 500 is likely a nut.
And they're not. Yeah, they're not representative of the normal population
trying to
and the
do
voters. They're not
this-
representative of the voters.
Yeah, this is what really I found funny though about all those that are up on the stage for debate. The two individuals of color, Vivek and Tim Scott.
What about Nikki Haley?
Well,
Oh, she's a woman, so you ignore, right, Chitovi? Come on,
No,
Nikki
not at all.
Haley.
well, even you can throw in Nikki Haley.
Okay, thank you. There you
All say that racism is overblown. All say, as a matter of fact, Vivek was talking
Yeah,
about
Clarence Thomas is a person of
go. Yeah,
color.
but
as well.
who are they talking to? They're talking to which party?
Yeah,
but-
Okay, so what are you going to do? Say
But
something
Nick,
different?
just think about this: 20% of them thought Ron DeSantis won the debate. 20% of your poll respondents thought Ron DeSantis won the debate. Come
You're
on.
listening too good.
1/5 of them have no clue. We know that.
You're right. You're right. 25%, 24% thought Ron DeSantis
Yeah.
won the debate.
How could
DeSantis
anyone think that?
He didn't even really.
Hey, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I gotta ask y'all because it kind of comes down to what we're talking about. Because there was another major news story in addition to the whole debate and everything, and that was the Maui disaster and everything.
God,
and
yeah.
apparently, right now there are a bunch of conspiracy theories spreading on social media. So there are a slew of viral conspiracy videos that have made baseless claims that the wildfires were started intentionally as part of a land grab, and that a number of other things were happening in all of this space. So there are folks that are, and I'm sure there's going to be conspiracy theories about the hurricanes that are coming our way and all along those lines. So I was just wondering, how much do we take heed in these crazy conspiracy theories? Because apparently there's a bunch of them that are now going out there.
It's the
in
fallacy of causality. It's the fallacy of causality, which means that just because it happened and people are going to try to take advantage of it, that people tried to take advantage of it caused it. It's not true. They didn't
It's
cause
just
it.
crazy.
But
You
they
just
will be
hit the
swapping.
nail on the head.
They will be trying to go
Crazy
get property
conspiracy.
for cheap now.
Well,
It happened in Puerto Rico, too.
Jim, you're gonna love this one. In one video, a user claims a friend sent him a video of a laser beam coming out of the sky directly targeting the city. This was a
And the
direct
Jews control that
interview
laser
with
beam.
assault, he said. The video remains posted, but now includes a label from Instagram listing it as false information. So the imagery
Well,
appears
but
to be
there
from
is-
a previous SpaceX launch. But
No,
apparently
There
that-
is video of that. They took like video of some kind of satellite launch from a forested area, and then they ran it backwards. Like you can always they were showing like you can always find video of something that you can repurpose for BS purposes.
That's right. You can always create your own video that supports your crazy idea. There was one video that shows that the moon is flat, that somebody actually launched a laser from the moon into Hawaii and burned Hawaii. And so the thing came from the flat moon laser beam, and they showed two aliens walking around doing it all.
But
I mean,
what is true about this is that people are now speculating. They're trying to get land for cheap in Maui now.
Yeah.
People are desperate. They're homeless. They have to move. So now the land is available. So people are going to go in there, buy it, and develop properties. They're going to get the land for cheap. Maui, Hawaii,
Well,
land
they're
for
buying.
cheap.
The worst part about it is they're taking advantage of those individuals who lost everything.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
So
they
they-
don't blink. I mean, they show, that's just business as far as they're concerned.
Yeah,
So,
but
And that's the
what,
sad
what may have happened if you use Occam's razor, the simplest solution is probably the best, is the stupid electric company kept the wires going, and it created the heat that created the fire. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was an electrical fire.
Yeah, they're being
absolutely.
sued
I think that's most
massively
likely.
now.
Hey,
Right.
just
I
along
reckon-
those
I think Hawaiian Electric is being sued, Rick, because of that. And see, that's the simplest solution, which is probably what happened. Is it was an electrical fire that hit with a windstorm that was 60 miles an hour.
Same thing
And then
happened to PG&E. out here in California. PG.
Yeah,
right.
got sued.
PG&E did the same thing in Northern California.
Right. They had equipment keeping lines up that was 80 years old that should have been replaced 50 years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
and it should be underground now.
Come on now. Who says we need to upgrade the electrical grid? Come on now.
Yeah,
Who needs
that
to do
costs taxpayer money.
Yeah, we can't upgrade. I do have to ask both of you, Toby and Jim, and even Rick, because I mentioned this on the news show earlier, but there are hundreds of people, not thousands, but hundreds of people that are gathering in Scotland. And I mentioned this with our news guests when we first started, because apparently they think that they're going to track down the Loch Ness Monster, speaking of conspiracy theories and all along those lines. So I just want to know whether the three of you have got your airplane ticket, your cruise ticket, or whatever to get there to Scotland to find this Loch Ness Monster, because I know well, all three of y'all, including Nick as well, so I'll add him as a fourth person, are going to be on the hunt for the Loch Ness Monster, just like I know y'all on the hunt for Bigfoot, or Yeti, as used to be called earlier.
I've been there too. Once
And
burned.
I cannot
Quite shy.
find anything except a long lake
Yeah.
with cold water in it that was pretty deep. Other than that, there wasn't anything exciting going on.
Well, there are trinkets you could buy. All
You
sorts of
trick
them.
you could buy. There's nothing there except idiots like me and Jim who go down there to look for something that doesn't exist.
Well, it's
Yeah.
really nice there right now. It's summer and it's so far north, you probably
Sure.
get 18 hours a day of sunshine.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
true.
also
And,
really
it's also
cold.
something you
even
check
though-
off your bucket list. You have to go see it. you know.
Yeah, you got to go see that.
And the Loch Ness Monster is like a dinosaur-sized creature,
Well,
for like
it's-
a better
it's-
term and everything. So what would you do if you actually ran across it? Because I'm thinking that
It's
if you think he's gonna
fantastic
grab you and
Photoshop.
make you his dinner, so why these people are hunting something that doesn't exist? But if they find it, what are they gonna do with it? Just tell me, you're in the world of entertainment. What would you do if you found the Loch Ness Monster and it actually turned out to be real? Because that's a very big monster that apparently can hide very well and everything. But how? Because I'm thinking that it would cause all kinds of trouble, and he would probably. I don't think he's going to be inviting you over for a shared dinner. If anything, you might be his dinner.
You just
You
make
guys
a
saw
reality
Puff the
show.
Magic Dragon? You know you can ride the back of the dragon and go down like a slide?
Yeah.
You make a
The
reality
harness
show.
over it is hard.
You take a
Core.
you
know,
get
they're
a
right
boat
about
full of
fish
hot
food.
people who look good in swimsuits, and you set them up as Loch Ness tour guides on the loch. And
I
then
go back.
I'd like to see her Nessies. But
Toby.
We're our centers.
We have all these sea monster stories, and they're all based on something. Somebody saw
Yeah.
something like a giant squid, and all of a sudden there was preposterous stories that were built in it, and they came told again and exaggerated over time. So all of these things are probably based on
But
something.
they actually did find giant squids.
Yeah,
Way-
they are giant squids, right?
Yeah, they're giant squids.
What
There's
about the under the
some
sea?
things that are out there.
But they became stories, Nick. That's my point.
I know, yeah,
Somebody
it's-
saw one and then it's told what they saw, which got
Right.
exaggerated into this sea monster roaring out of the sea, the Kraken, and all these types of stories. They have a basis,
right.
but
Speaking of
you have to
things
take it
that
with a
have
grain
basis,
of salt because
speaking of things
it's
that have a
like
basis,
telephone.
apparently there is a university that's in hot water because they have a T-shirt or a shirt that's out there. We're getting ready to come up on football season, and I get where they were going, but apparently people are taking it out of context. But the Texas Longhorns have a shirt that says "Embrace the Hate," and apparently this is leading to all kinds of outrage on media because I think that the hate that they're talking about is hate for their opponent team and everything. But people are thinking that it is part of that greater division that we are in the nation around. So did they make a mistake by coming up with the "Embrace the Hate" shirt? And did they not do enough marketing research to realize that this might offend some people and all along those lines? Because apparently it's all over social media that folks are like, wait a minute, we don't want to embrace the hate. We want
Some
to
adults should be fired. Yeah.
I don't really care because remember, Tech's ass is really what it's all about. So who cares?
I want to talk about The Blind Side.
Oh
So
yeah.
Michael Orr, the huge kid who grew up to be an NFL lineman
Yeah,
and who was supposedly adopted by the Toohey family, who got him schooled and then helped him turn into a great lineman. has recently found out that he was not adopted by the Tuohys, that he was under a conservatorship. And he's
Right.
mad because as a non-family member, he didn't get to share in any of the revenue from the movie. So my
Sandra
first,
Bullock won an Oscar for.
He actually has a legitimate complaint because of
Absolutely.
NIL, you know. But at the same time, the movie theater or the movie director had the right, obviously, to create a story that wasn't 100% true. But at the same time, I'm not sure if they can get away with not paying for his NIL.
So my first thought when I heard this story was, no matter how much money the Tuohy family screwed Michael Oher out of, I bet you the producers screwed everybody out of.
Of course, that's the name of the game. Come on, Rick, you're in.
Well, now we have numbers.
Oh, we do. That's
So
what
the Blind Side made $350 million box office.
Whoa, that's pretty good.
And the Tuohys negotiated 2.5% net profit points.
Net's a bad deal. They should have done gross.
That's a bad deal, but if you do, that movie netted, under any reasonable definition of profit, about 280 million. 2.5% of that is 7 million. The Tuohys got paid 542,000.
So they got screwed.
Yeah, you always get screwed with net points.
Well,
And Michael got zero.
That was Steven Spielberg's first lesson in Hollywood accounting. He first did, I want 10% of the net profits on Jaws. At the end of the day, there weren't any profits and he didn't get anything. His next contract said, I want 10% of the gross revenue. And then he became a billionaire.
And he had the chops to do it. Yes.
Yeah, right. But he had to change that one word from net.
Well, the thing about that story is they got him under, they signed him to this contract in order to play college football. That was the thing.
Steven Spielberg?
No. Michael Oher. Yeah, Steven Spielberg couldn't play tackle, but
I was going to say, I don't think he did.
No, they tried to get him into the college that they went to,
Right.
and he did, and he performed for them, and that was, college was a big business, and again, college athletes got none of that money, and so this was a big deal, even before he got into the NFL. I mean, they didn't plan on him getting to be pro. They planned on him winning college football games for them.
Right.
But
And that was their whole sphere of influence, their whole circle of
Jim,
friends.
is this anything new? Hold on a second. Jim, is this anything new? Because I'm thinking that there was way back when there was the Diary of Miss Jane Pittman. I'm thinking Miss Jane Pittman didn't probably get any money. About 7 years ago, there was the Hidden Figure movie, and I'm thinking that most of those mathematicians and scientists that were the actual subjects of that movie probably made very little money. They might have made some off of the speaking tour, but I don't think that they made anything compared to the millions that were made from the movie. So we can go on down the line. I'm
Henrietta Lacks.
List and a number of other ones that were historically oriented that the people that were the movie was made about probably made very little, and a lot of times it's because they didn't.
It's not just movies. Henrietta Lacks is this woman who was the source of HeLa cells, which are these cells that just keep reproducing. She had a bad case of cancer 100 years ago, and they pulled cells out of her. And now these cells are used in labs around the world because they're really easy to work with. And after, not 100 years, but after 80 years, they've finally made a deal with her descendants that the family gets some of the profits from her cells.
Yeah. Well, he also has a complaint under quantum validate or quantum merit, which is the reasonable value of your services. I haven't read the complaint yet, but just looking empirically, I think he may have a cause of action and may win some decent money. I'm sure the lawyers are interested highly in winning the case because they usually get 30, 40, or 50%. 30% if you settle, 40% if it goes to trial, and 50% if it goes to appeal. So the attorneys, when they see a cause of action, because I'm sure he's got a plaintiff's attorney involved, that they're looking to win that case. But just looking at it, we're talking those types of numbers, Rick. It looks like they have settlement value, if not real value, at trial. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a transfer of assets over to them.
And I've got another news story for you, Nick, and everything that you're going to love because it involves social media, but it also involves the cost of education. Because apparently there is a Stanford gymnast, Ian Ganther, that takes home more than $10,000 a month on average from social media. So he's probably using the various social media platforms and is making a good profit. So last month he used his earnings to pay off his college tuition at Stanford. So he definitely has got this great education that is the Stanford education that he is paid off with his work in the whole notion of social media and all along those lines. I might have to talk to my nephews and see if they can get a good social media account so that we can afford to pay off for college, since they're about 3 or 4 years away from college age and all in that space. But maybe this is a new strategy that I need to look into.
Okay. Well, you know, Stanford's pretty interesting because they're looking to join the ACC. Okay. But the ACC should really get Stanford. But I'm going to tell you why they should get Stanford. The reason they should get Stanford is the endowment of Stanford is $37 billion. That means they got $37 billion basically in the bank. The highest ACC team is Duke, where we live. And the most money the ACC has is Duke. They only have $12 billion. The two teams that are aggravated about being part of the ACC are called Florida State and Clemson because, we're good football teams. But their endowments are the worst in the league. 800 million, 900 million. I mean, you're talking about, they don't even have $1 billion in Florida State. Even the University of Miami, we have over $1 billion in endowment. Okay, so if you look at the fit for Stanford, why they should join the ACC. Number one, they have billions of dollars, more than anyone. Number two, they're not a bad university, from what I understand. And so for those two reasons, and even though they may not be able to compete well in the football field, who cares? They even told the ACC, we don't even need the money to be part of the ACC. We'll give up the first several years or take a lower percentage because we really don't need your stinking money. The two teams that need the money are Clemson and Florida State because they're broke. Those schools are broke relative to the rest of the ACC. By the way, look at the rest of the ACC.
Nick, along those same lines, sometimes going and playing those schools is also a great benefit because I know for a fact, I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jatovi, but I think that in this coming month that North Carolina Central University is going to do Orange Bowl. I think they're playing in USC, so they'll be playing the Trojans. They will probably get killed because there are a lot of NFL players that come there and everything, but it will be a big payday when they go there to play that game, even though the score will probably be like, 60 to 12.
Also, the reason they should join the ACC, there's a lot of different reasons, but number one is that the ACC doesn't get Stanford and UCal. They should take both of them over to the ACC. The ACC is under a lot of pressure from the Big Ten and the SEC that have grabbed all the big name schools and the Big 12 who grabbed everybody else. There's no one left for them to grab. And it's almost like you have to grow or die. Now, the disadvantage is the flight. The closest flight is over 5.5
think about the
hours.
students. Think about the students for a second. You're making the argument for the universities, which is true. The argument for the universities is true. And of course, Stanford wins the Governor's Cup every year, which means all the sports combined, they're the number one school in sport for years and years and years. Sure. So you take all the sports and Stanford is number one. However, its academic track record is, you can't argue with it. It's very difficult to get into. Yeah. However, what we're talking about is in order to play a home and home game, you got to go cross country, back and forth.
That's right. Yeah,
and these are students who are supposed to be doing a Division I scholastic or athletic environment and doing tough work, study. And now you're sending them back and forth across the country. So
the needs to open up. They need a Florida annex.
But at the same time, Jim, we have improvements in technology, which will be the supersonic jets, what they're looking to redevelop again. And so then these long flights are going to be in the next 10 years or 5 years, shorter flights.
But they aren't now. But that's a promise that may or may not come true.
Imagine being a 320-pound lineman having to fly 5-6 hours each way on a commercial jet.
They do that a lot of times anyway. I mean,
They
the thing
do
is,
that regularly, but Rick isn't part of the
not
Rick,
part of
isn't
the regular
problem.
season. Nick.
Isn't
when
part
you're
of
in
the
business,
problem
you're going to
in
get
terms
used to
of
getting on planes.
media and sports is that the fact that it's not
Get on
just
your
the
first
ACC,
class ticket
it's
to
the
go.
Big East,
No,
it's
it's
where
not-
my
and
alma
get a
mater
degree
Marquette is
at
part
Stanford.
of.
Come
It's the Big Ten.
on
They
your
are all
plane.
trying to create a super conference because they all want,
Yeah.
because of the TV, they all want
That's
to
the
have
way
like
it's gone.
a New
The
York base, they
Pac-12 is
want a Southeast,
dissolved.
they want a West
Right.
Coast. They all want a super conference that is a national conference. That is what
Yeah.
most of them want.
There's
They
no
want
question about the trend is. It's just
Right.
what the harm is doing to
But,
the
but,
students
but,
is
if,
being
but, if, but if
overlooked.
you look at this, okay, look at this. Atlanta is less than 5 hours away. They're going to add SMU, which is even closer to them, and then you add Louisville. Then you put them in the West Division. So this way, they don't have long flights to go play SMU, Louisville, and play Georgia Tech. If you look at from academic standpoint, the best league academically, when you get rid of the Ivies, which don't count, is the ACC. Look at, they have all the top schools: UVA, University of North Carolina, Duke, Georgia Tech. So Stanford and Cal fit well into a good academic league, which is the ACC. Now, and the only problem is the flights. Well, with improved technology, these 5-hour flights are going to become 1-hour flights, 2-hour
Well, I'm
flights.
taking a flight across country next month, Nick. It's not
Where you
going to
going?
happen for me.
You know, hold on a
And-
second. Hold on a second. Speaking of improved technology, I've got to
technology.
switch our conversation
Yeah,
just
what
slightly
is
because there is a platform that we all love. We all use it regularly. We use it even here for this network to get out there and everything. But apparently today, there is a major millionaire that is going to try to take on that company that we all love and everything, because we all are, I think most of us here are fans of LinkedIn. I know I use it regularly for a lot of the shows that I
On
do
LinkedIn.
and everything. But Elon Musk is coming up with a company called X Hiring, and he took to X over the weekend and said LinkedIn, a Sunnyvale-based company that's been owned by Microsoft Core since 2016, was quote unquote cringe. So that's what he said, and he said he could bring himself to use the platform. So he is coming up with his own solution, which is to give them some competition. It allows verified organizations to showcase job listings on their respective handles on X, which until a month ago went by its original name, Twitter. So apparently there is a Twitter rollout that is supposed to be taken on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is definitely a job site, but it's also a site for a lot of discussions, and definitely a lot of us podcasters use it because it is a platform that StreamYard uses quite often as well. So what do we think about Elon ready to take on LinkedIn and all in that space? He even had some feature your most critical role and organically reach millions of relevant candidates, read X Hiring's official announcement on Friday, and they said that they're going to use that whole verified organization status.
Oh, he's done such a good job with Twitter,
I know.
making it just burst in the seams. I'm sure he's going to do good taking LinkedIn. Come on. Musk isn't a media guy.
I think of Musk as the Donald Trump of tech, where
That's true.
he took a company, he bought a company, Twitter, for $44 billion and evaporated probably close to 2/3 of its market value in about 6 months.
Right. And then Tesla was actually designed by engineers who did a great job putting Tesla together. The person who put Tesla together was not Elon Musk. It was a group of engineers. All he did was throw capital in and said, I created Tesla. He didn't
when he buys the company, part of the contract is that even if he wasn't there when it was founded, part of his contract is he has to be called a founder.
Right. Yeah, but he's all fraud. Elon Musk is probably the biggest fraud since Donald Trump. Okay, but no one's going to say anything about it because he's Elon Musk. In a lot of cases,
Elon Musk, but speaking of fraud, apparently earlier this month, Meta and which is Zuckerberg's company, had said that they were going to remove all news content from both Facebook and Instagram in Canada. I wish Sasha was here so we could find out how that's going and everything. But apparently they are not going to have a lot of news content, or at least that's what they were trying to work on earlier this month. There is an Online News Act that's there in Canada that went apparently into effect back in June.
Look at what Elon Musk did. I'm going to compete with Twitter. And then in a couple of weeks, he had 100 million people onto his Twitter type program. And then a couple of weeks later, had 10 million. He lost 90 million of them. I mean, these people as they say in chess, as they say, Jim Eade, it's not so easy, as the Russians would say. They look at these positions, not so easy. So these multi-billionaires talk a lot of yap because they get a lot, but as it's not that easy. So I don't think Musk is as great as his publicists make him out to be. You know, he's all fake. He's all
And
fake.
Speaking of publicists, I got a question for Rick because I know he's really been following the Trump case and all of that stuff. There were some people that thought that the mugshot was going to be used as a campaign tool and that it was going to actually be used in a positive light. I saw the mugshot; it didn't look all that positive to me. But how is it going to be turned into a and maybe Jim got some thoughts as well, because there are a number of folks that thought that it was going to be turned into a viral positivity.
He already raised $7 million off of it over the weekend.
Yeah,
so he's going to keep. As soon as that mugshot went up, Zoolander trended because Zoolander is the movie about the male models, Ben Stiller, and everybody thought Trump was doing Blue Steel, mad dogging the camera.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but it's a huge seller because liberals want to buy mugshot T-shirts to make fun of Trump, and Trump supporters want to buy it to support him.
Right. So he turned his trash into gold already. Hey, but something very interesting I saw the other day on Netflix was Painkiller, about the Sackler family.
We watched it. My wife and I watched it.
That was pretty impressive how they pushed OxyContin on the whole country and made billions and billions of dollars. Then they filed bankruptcy, but they want a provision that on the settlement that they cannot lose any of their personal assets or be sued personally. Okay. Then the bankruptcy judge threw that out. They're going, there's nothing in the bankruptcy code that allows you to be granted blanket immunity. And so now they still haven't paid out their settlement and they're reducing it quite a bit.
And here's a number we don't know. How many addicts did that cause?
Well, I'm sure it caused tons of addicts.
It kills about 100,000 Americans a year?
Well, between fentanyl, OxyContin, and abuse, it's 100,000 people a year die. Of that, they said 30% of the people that take it will abuse it. Of that, 10% become addicts. So if you had 100 people, 30 of them will abuse it, and that's a big problem with those painkillers. If theoretically,
definitely those painkillers are horrible, but just the way that we go in media is terrible as well. Hey Jim,
you're not going to.
Yeah, Jim, I got a quick question for you, and it actually comes back to one of our other shows because I do like tying our shows together and all in that space. And I know that you appear regularly. I wish Shasser was here on the investment show and all in that space. But apparently there was an article that came out earlier today because they did, there's research on everything. But apparently investors are more likely to trust financial planning advice generated by artificial intelligence than the myriad of opinions on social media. So a recent survey by the CFP board found that 71% of respondents said they have little or no trust in advice they find on social media platforms, but are more divided on the validity of advice created by generative AI. So while more than half, 51%, had little or no trust in advice from platforms such as ChatGPT and Google Bard, 31% said they are comfortable to act on the advice without verification from another source. So I'm wondering, are we going to just have a bunch of people that are going to say, hey, do I need to invest in something because ChatGPT told me to?
There are plenty of morons out there, and they've been losing their money for a long time.
And they'll continue.
There's a huge overlap between crypto folks and Trump fanatics, which is one more reason that I'll never do crypto.
Well, we were preaching against crypto 2 years before FTX became because there's nothing behind it. It's all fake, And I even have a Bitcoin somewhere, but only because I have zero basis in it. But other than that, I wouldn't touch that trash.
So Nick, I was thinking about what you said a couple weeks ago, which is about the writers' strike and the actors' strike, and you basically said actors and writers are babies and they should get used to being technologically replaced. Yeah. And I don't favor that, but I kind of think that in the long run, it's an inevitability that you know, AI is stupid right now,
It's true.
but it will get smarter and smarter, and eventually it'll take over. You know, humans will be. It'll be all side hustles for humans. Kind of
Right.
just.
Hey, but
Well,
Rick,
well, even in
what
the
happens
chess
with
world,
Rick? What
the
happens
chess
when
world,
the AI
computers-
goes on strike? So if the Hollywood actors and the screenwriters are going on strike and AI is becoming smarter, doesn't that mean that at some point AI will get smart enough to realize that they need to go on strike as well? So we're saying that AI is part of the problem, but
Well, there'll be owners as well.
But
AI will follow its own imperatives, which will be largely, you know, human-based imperatives, because we're the model that it'll work from, but it'll just be better at everything. And the people who form the, you know, the most intimate alliances with AI will be, you know, will get the most benefits.
Yeah, but there'll still be a place for humans because last week they had the World Cup of Chess, and I had to see the last game, and that was Magnus Carlsen versus Pragna, whatever his name is, the guy from India. It was a great game. But Jim, why do people even bother to watch humans play chess when you and I know the best chess players in the world today are computers? Like,
I have a quick
Stockfish.
answer for you, Nick. It's
Give me a quick
unscripted
answer.
drama. It's the drama of it. You never know who's going to make the last mistake.
Okay, right, because humans will make that. But the fact is, if you want a really good game, you got to watch two computers play. But they
Yeah,
get
but
no
that's
love.
boring.
Humans,
There's no drama in that. I've done it.
really.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've
so
done it, and we used to have the computer versus computer. It was held in Harvard in Boston for years and years, but it never got popular because they were boring. Now that
Right.
it was okay when computers were different strengths. You know,
Right.
that was interesting because you didn't know which was the best computer, and so you produced the best computer. But now they're all too strong.
Yeah. Okay, but also another thing. So the World Cup was won by Magnus Carlsen. I think he won 1.8 million. It got zero press in any of the major networks here. Instead, they showed women's discus throw. So why is it that is more important than a world champion in chess? Talk to me.
Well, part of the problem is that the track and field is actually considered a major sport, whereas I hate to say this, and I hate to tell both you and Jim this, to the majority of the population, chess is seen as a game, not a sport. I know it is a sport, but I am a fan of this. I'm a fan of it. I'm actually a fan of chess, but I'm just telling you the perception of people because of the way that our schools are organized. Think about our athletic departments.
I got a better answer, Mark. The answer is everyone knows how to throw a disc, and no one knows how. Now, you know, only 1% of the population knows how to play chess. They can't follow the rules. They don't know what they're watching. So
Exactly, but that's kind of what I was
the ball,
alluding to, because every school
everybody can
school
relate
has
to.
a track team just about in the country. So and everybody knows how to do that sport. They know the discus, they know the shot put, they know a number of other things. It is definitely considered a major sport. I mean, it's not football, basketball, or baseball, but it's definitely into that major sport. I mean, not every school has a tennis
I
club.
was captain of my track and field team in high school, man. All those things are understandable.
And they call NASCAR a sport where you're just driving a car. Come on, chess is a sport as much as NASCAR is. But there's another good movie on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen this, Jim, Critical Thinking, about the Miami Jackson chess team that won the Nationals. All right. Now, I know two of the players because I played Marcel and I've also played Rodney Medley, whatever his name is. So personally, I played both of them there. I lost to Marcel, but I beat Rodney. Rodney hated that one. But the thing is, it's actually a really good movie about, it's called Critical Thinking.
I've heard of it and I've read about it, but I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet either. But
it's about how inner city kids won. They actually won the national high school tournament, which is a hard one to win, 1998. Part of it is because Marcel Martinez was such a great player. I mean, he was a talent when he was in high school. Just came over from Cuba. Cuba, chess is a religion. Like in India, they have 100 million people. 100 million people, Mark, playing
No,
on chess.
there's tons of people that play chess. I'm not knocking that, but I'm just saying that
100
in the
million.
United States, we're talking about
That's
on
a
the
saga.
West
Yeah.
and everything,
In
but
the United
definitely
States,
it's
it's
a
not
very
popular.
popular
It's better
sport,
than
and hopefully this movie will give it the boost, because there was a movie, and I did have a quick question for Rick as well. There was a movie that gave a boost briefly, but it was only briefly, to the debate area, and that was called The Great Debate and everything, because there was a number of African American debaters, and I'm talking about the traditional debate like what we supposedly saw on the Wednesday, even though that was not a good debate, even by debate rules and everything, because they weren't following the rules, and they were definitely totally not
What
abiding
rules?
by the rules.
was
Like they said, they weren't abiding by the rules. They
rules.
totally were not abiding by the rules, and they even were making jokes about the bail. But at least that movie gave a slight boost for a minute to the debate culture and all along those lines. And hopefully this movie can do something similar and everything. But the question I have for Rick is, I'm looking at Warner's releases, and one of them is Dune 2. So I'm going like, half of these movies are movies that were out, I want to say in the 70s, because I can't remember when Dune 1 came out, but I know Wonka was definitely in the 70s. Color Purple was like around the 80s, and Aquaman was definitely early as well. And these are some of the movies that are coming out in the Christmas season. I know part of this is
Yeah, that
because of
bugs.
the
All
strike.
right, I don't like rebooting stuff from the 60s and 70s. I mean, fine, but they need to focus on more recent stuff. There's an author named Neil Stevenson whose work has been optioned by Clooney, and none of it ever gets made. And yeah, like Dune, I think was first published in 1965.
Yeah, I read it a long time ago.
And it's a great book, but
Yeah.
there's plenty of great stuff that's more recent.
We
Yeah.
don't need a reboot of Charlie's Angels.
No,
But I'll tell you how you make people like chess. You do that show with Anya Taylor-Joy. Like
oh,
the
it's
prettiest.
Queen's Gambit 2 is coming out on Netflix.
That
I
was
told y'all
well
the solution
done.
how to make chess popular. I told y'all this on a
Hey,
earlier
Chess
show
for
and
Dummies
everything.
got a
You have
big
to do
boost.
the
Here's
poker
what
and
you need.
poker at midnight thing, and have the woman prancing around in a scantily clad outfit, and maybe have
come now,
some
guys.
women commentators as well. That's what you got to
Come
do.
now.
Here's the solution to chess. Elon Musk was working on putting chips in people's heads, but he's bad at it, and it was killing all his tests. His I don't know. They weren't doing it.
Monkeys.
All his animals. But eventually, we'll be able to put computer interfaces directly in our brains. So you get some of the hottest, most attractive people on earth, and you turn them into human computers via an interface, so that the best computer chess players are living in humans, and then you have those humans sit down and play, and when they're not playing, you follow them around like it's a reality show.
Hey, that could work.
And they could then be the AI writers too. So
yeah,
And
right.
right now
But
they're
Nick,
all on strike, so there's nothing to be made. So I think Queen's Gambit 2, which is coming out, has already been made many months ago, but it's going to come out on Netflix very shortly. And Anna Taylor-Joy is just a joy to watch.
yeah,
It's
that's
like I
true.
finally saw Barbie with Margot Robbie.
yeah.
Robbie, yeah.
Yeah,
Suicide
and
Squad.
it doesn't matter if she was Barbie or whatever. Men are going to watch her. I mean, she was in
the same reason that, as Jacoby said earlier,
Yeah.
people watch Beyonce and everything. But apparently, and I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts, but I really want to hear yours, Nick. Fran Drescher, speaking of the strike, was out there recently, and she told the Associated Press that this moment around the strike is about the entire world of work and a larger stand against corporate leaders who value shareholders over the people who create the product. At some point, you have to say
She is
no more.
entirely correct.
Yeah.
She is
People
correct,
who-
but that's what the bylaws of corporations say, Mark. I mean, the thing is, what she's trying to say is that we need to change the corporate structure in America, and she can do that, but she's got to change the law. Because I'm sitting on the board of directors of a company, which I did, that my obligation is not to my employees. Notice not. It says my obligation under the laws of the great state of Florida is to the shareholders. Hello. So yes, she's right. They're doing the right thing. They're there to support their shareholders by law. So what she really needs to do is change the bloody law.
Yeah,
If
but
you
her
don't-
exact quote is, I mean, it seems like she's going down the socialist path, and I have some
No.
friends in that tension. Hold on a second, because her exact quote is,
No.
I think that it's taken on a bigger scope. It's greater than the sum of its parts. I think it's a conversation now about the culture of big business and how it treats everybody up and down the ladder in the name of profit.
Like I said, in the long run, we, all humans, all workers, are screwed because AI will outperform everybody. Now, the guys who formed Hollywood 100 years ago, they were just a bunch of guys who came west to get away from Thomas Edison. But they loved movies. They loved making movies. And they were monsters. They were sexual harassers. They exploited their people, but they liked making movies. The new corporate leaders, they're CEO types. And there's a lot has been written about how the modern CEO who gets gets paid 350 times as much as the average employee is that a lot of them are psychopaths. That there's nothing to stop the craziest, most ruthless people from being CEOs,
like our politicians,
to the more paternal CEOs of the 1950s, who maybe personally knew most of their workers and cared about them. And it's a huge shift, and it sucks for everybody. But yeah, you probably can't do anything about it without, dismantling all of Western civilization.
Well, no, corporations didn't exist a long time ago. They were created so that people could get rich without taking as much risk.
Well,
and so when they created corporations, this kind of thing was in mind. Get the shareholders' money, but really the people who are going to be on the boards and people that are going to be in management, they were going to get rich. And these people, everybody else would share in the crumbs, and that would be great. And so, and they don't care about society. They don't care about pollution. They don't care about global climate change. None of that stuff matters. It matters what their quarterly earnings are. Now that mindset has changed. And it's gotten to the point where it's now toxic. And can we do anything about it? Yes and no. Right now we have to change people's attitudes about it. To say that, hey, look, you used to be taught, Milton Friedman used to teach us, if the corporation makes more money, it'll build more factories, employ more people. That hasn't happened in 50 years. What happens is the money goes into either stock buybacks or into the managers' pockets. And we're not employing more workers. What we're doing is shipping them overseas where there aren't these funny things like labor laws, like OSHA, where they have to worry about the workers' health. So they can work there and get their arm chopped off and they have no legal recourse overseas.
Somebody called corporations the first AI, because corporations are these entities that are relentless in the pursuit of their interests.
Yeah.
That's what their job is. But if you want the other model, and what you should tell Fran, or whatever her name is.
Dresser, she was famous. Come on.
Okay, famous person. Create an ESOP, Employee Stock Option Program, the biggest ESOP in the United States, which is the number 2, believe it or not, food store in the United States. It's called Publix Supermarket. They have over 40,000 shareholders that are owners, and those are the people that work at Publix Supermarket.
It's not just Publix. It's one of the biggest NFL franchises and ESOP as well, because I'm not a fan, because they are a rival of my favorite team, because I'm a Vikings fan. But if I remember correctly, I'm wrong, Jim, but I think the Green Bay Packers are
owned by the citizens of Green Bay. So if these people in Hollywood ever get off their duffs and decide we're going to create an ESOP, Employee Stock Option Program, where the employees actually own the product.
It's just wrong to say get off their duffs, because what they're good at is writing. What they're good at.
But they tried it. They did it successfully 80 years ago. United Artists.
There we go. United Artists.
When some of the biggest stars in Hollywood got pissed off at being screwed over.
Right. Yeah,
and you had business people and creative people, and the business people have always exploited the creative people since the dawn of time. So
I mean, isn't one of the companies that isn't one of the
reactions, and what we have is organized labor disputes, and so what we do over time is find out that they can even the playing field a little bit, but the people with the money making the rules are always going to win more than the creative types and the basically labor. But you
But
have
Jim,
collective
Jim, hold
bargaining
on a
for a
second.
reason.
Isn't one of the biggest companies and a company that DeSantis is not a big fan of? It's my understanding of the history is that actually Mr. Disney, Mr. Walt, created that because he was trying to get screwed over by the boss of the studio that he was part of at that time. So that's when he broke off and created Disneyland.
Yeah, we
Disney
can't
World.
really hero worship Walt Disney, but it's a loser to take on Disney as far as DeSantis is concerned. You know,
I
the
mean,
guy
yeah,
is just
all of Hollywood was formed
poor
in
politician.
rebellion.
Well, I'm not trying to do
against-
hero worship of Disney, but am I not correct? Didn't Disney break off from the other gentleman? I thought I read that somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. But Thomas Edison was a huge business prick. He was,
It's true.
and it's like if you try to make a movie
Speak to Tesla
and
about
on the
that.
East Coast and didn't use Edison cameras, which were expensive,
Yeah,
Edison
patents
thugs
everything.
would come and wreck your stuff. So everybody moved west to get away from Edison.
Get away from
Everything has been a rebellion against business forces.
Right. Yeah. So the thing is there, but I think there are some solutions out there.
Oh,
Like
we
United-
ran into the Pacific Ocean. We couldn't go any further west,
Yeah.
So this is the problem. We said go west, young man, but there's the Pacific Ocean. There's no further west we can go than California. That's why I'm here.
Well, all I can
As
tell
far
about
as I could go.
okay, your creative writers and your creative actors, they need to get their
You
Get
can go
off
to
your-
Alaska, Jim.
Don't tell them to get off their butts, Nick. They're getting off their butts to doing their job.
Hey,
Writing.
Jim, you can go to Alaska and Hawaii. They're a little bit west of you and all in that space. And you
You
can
just
also go
don't
to
know what
Atlanta.
it's like to write, to be a creative person, Nick.
No,
You're a
no.
business guy. You're a lawyer. Okay, you're good at what you do. They're good at what they do. Don't ask them to do something else.
Then your scripts are going to be written in India, and your actors are all going to be Indian actors, and they're going to be
That's what's
shipped.
making the Tesla batteries now. That's what's making all this stuff for us. That's why we couldn't make protective gear when COVID hit, when the pandemic hit. We can't
look
make
forward
shit
to watching-
anymore. We
Looking
don't
forward
make
to
stuff.
watching a
We
lot of
shifted
Indian movies.
overseas, and then shareholders made money off of it.
And they
The
can just-
jobs went away, Nick.
That's right.
Been the
They're-
problem.
Yeah, and you're not going to solve the problem because what's going to happen
You
is
can't solve the problem if you state it accurately. You're
No,
not
you're-
stating it accurately. The problem
Look,
is we
that-
shipped all the jobs overseas. Biden is trying to bring some of it back, some of the manufacturing back, starting with semiconductors, which is a
Yeah,
national security
the
issue.
easiest thing to manufacture overseas is a
And
movie.
people are not getting it. People are not saying it because they're saying things like you say, which is get off your duffs. No, it's not get off your duffs. That's stupid to say that, Nick. You can't tell them to do what they don't do. They don't do these things. They do what they do best.
Then they get paid the fair wage that they got paid.
No,
Okay,
that's not true. They get collective bargaining to determine what that is, Nick. You don't tell them. And the owners have always been exploitive. They always will unless they get pushback. And that's what collective bargaining is. And strikes are part of the collective bargaining process.
Where they're going
We're
to
seeing this play out. And nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. You have to work it out like they always have.
or they might not. Instead, what you're going to see is Netflix movies made in India. You're going to see Netflix movies made in China. Netflix
Maybe
movies
that's the
made in
future, Nick.
Africa, everywhere
You
but
can't
the United
change it
States.
according to your own words. You can't change it. You can't fight it, right?
You guys are all going to be
You
on
can't
strike.
change the law.
You know, you guys are all going to be on strike. That's fine because people around the world are willing to work and work it out.
People,
they're
yeah, can people do it?
Please.
Yeah, well, people come from overseas. They come to the United States, but they don't have the ability to do certain jobs. But they do
Hollywood-
the job that
Right,
they
so
want to do.
Netflix-
Hold on a second. Nick, I hate to tell
Your
you,
argument is totally
Hollywood-
backwards.
Nick, I hate to tell you this, but
People
actually,
You can't
some
do
of the
these
places
jobs.
that you
That's
are
why they get
mentioning are
paid so well, and
actually
they should get paid more.
supporting the writer's strike, because I know for a fact that there are some actors in London and other places that have been supporting the writer's strike because they see that those same issues that are impacting the industry there could impact them as well. So I want to say I haven't heard from Bollywood, but I think Bollywood is backing them, and there are a number of others that are backing Hollywood as well, or the actors, because they know that the same issues could run into them as well.
So Vancouver's
Forget
got a
London
movie
might,
film
you can
industry.
forget Bollywood. Bollywood sees it as an opportunity, just like Modi sees, hey, this war is an opportunity for us in Ukraine. Bollywood goes, opportunity for the Indian movie to blossom internationally, while Rick Rosner and his group of people in Southern California sit it out, and the people in Northern California, Jim Eade, agrees that they should sit out and they could sit out for years as the
Who
Indian
said
movies
that they
go.
should sit out? They should
They'll
get
they'll
paid.
sit out on strike.
They get paid. Get them, pay them then. Why
They'll-
blame the people who are on strike instead of the people that have forced them to go on strike, Nick?
Nothing to
You
complain
don't
about.
play fair here. You
Enjoy
put
your
all the blame in one
holiday.
direction, but there's two parties here.
So
There's two
but
parties.
this-
There's owners
There's
and
three.
labor. And labor is getting screwed. And you don't care that they get screwed. I get it. I know. It's just too bad. You're getting screwed. So what? It's America. People
I
get
think-
screwed all the time, right?
You're-
So
Yeah.
people fight for their rights. People fight for their rights in America, and their
Yeah.
right to get paid, to get paid a living wage, is a right. And they fight for
That's
it.
$7
They
and
always
25
fought for it, Nick. Even when the Pinkertons were hired to bash in their skulls, they still fought for it, and they got it. They got
That's $7
the
and
ability
so
to own a home.
eventually,
to have two cars in the garage, and that's what made America great. And the way you're painting it is in a
It's
country I don't want to
Indian
live in. I want to live in a country where the people next to me have good lives, are living lives.
They
in
moved-
lives.
they moved to Finland.
the strike has been
Finland
going
is a
on
great
for
country. So all the Scandinavian countries are doing it right.
the strike
But
has been
America
going
in the
on.
1960s and 50s was doing it right too. We got screwed up with
Look, so
go
what
ahead.
happens every time there's a writers actors strike? Eventually, a deal is made that is only kind of okay, and that's what's going to happen here. The writers have been on strike for 4 months now. I think the timing was unfortunate because it started at the beginning of summer, and people go outside in the summer. The last strike started in October, and people got pissed at the lack of new content sooner. It's going to be another few months, I think, before the country gets frustrated that they're not seeing any new stuff. It maybe around the first of the year we'll get a settlement in the strike. If we're lucky, maybe sometime in September. But if it goes longer than that, it'll go for months more because Hollywood doesn't do any work after Thanksgiving.
Well, the owners could be smart about this and settle quicker.
Well, the owners have been doing PR that hasn't been, and so instead of settling, they've just been hiring PR people, which has been kind of backfiring because people still think the owners suck because they
do. They rich, but they do suck. Let's face it. They've always sucked.
What are you talking about?
They have always sucked, Nick.
No,
Every
no,
actor and everyone has always said, I got screwed. I got screwed in
So,
this.
right, the
Even
owners have
Spielberg
always
got
sucked,
screwed.
and writers have always been schmucks. Writers are somebody
That's
called
not what they're good
writers.
at, Nick. You're saying, oh yeah, but these guys are good at this stuff, manipulation, and these poor writers are getting exploited. They should become exploiters too. No, that's not how it works. People do what they're good at.
Well,
And the people who are pricks, who screw people over, are in management. That's what they do. They do good. They do.
Well,
They're good.
now you'll get to listen to Indian movies. They'll be coming down.
I don't think so. I think they'll
The
settle,
movies
and if
in
they were
Africa,
smarter,
movies in
besides
China.
being pricks, if they were smarter, they would settle quicker, because then they would make more money.
Well, except their
It would
stock
work
prices
for
have not
everyone.
been, as far as I know, the studio's stock prices have not taken a hit yet. They'll only-
Disney's down like 30%.
well, okay, so what do I know?
They're
Up
getting
with a typewriter.
pretty bad. So the thing is, we'll just have to see. But see, if Hollywood goes out of business, no one cares anymore because you're making movies overseas. So goodbye, Hollywood. We don't care anymore. And if Southern California leaves,
And we don't care about Disneyland.
Well, Southern, eventually the entertainment industry will leave Southern California anyway because LA will get
natural,
more and
isn't
more
it?
miserable to live in, and entertainment industry people are big babies who like.
But
and
Rick,
so they'll
Rick,
move
Rick,
someplace
I
Go to
hear what
Northern
you're saying, but there is a pushback to that because unfortunately some of the states are not that bright, and I love my state of North Carolina, but we used to be either third or fourth, depending on who you listen to, with Florida in the film industry. But then we decided not to give tax credits to people that were coming to make movies and all of that. And now I think we're dropped to like maybe 9th or 10th or something lower than that in that space because people are going to Louisiana, they're going to Tennessee, they're going to a number of other places because our fine folks in our state weren't smart enough to continue the tax credit and actually go after the projects that existed. So while there might be some people that are moving, and while the LA may lose some of their industry, I don't know that all the states are going to be as smart as they should be.
If you're going to do like DeSantis and get in a culture war with Disney, you're going to, a lot of companies aren't going to come to Florida to make movies.
Exactly.
Doesn't see it's a long-term losing proposition.
Yes. And with that, we're past the hour. So we'll see you next week on the media show. Have a good week watching the reruns that are on all movies, and get prepared to watch the Indian movies that'll be coming down.
Streaming.
They're not bad. I mean, they're goofy, but so are American movies.
And you can also see some great
Indian movies. They have the best.
Your cultural horizons. Until then, I'll see you next week.